Today we are going to start our unit on inequalities, and before we actually get started on our notes, I want to talk about the word inequality and what it means. So I see it on this whiteboard, and I see two parts to this word inequality. I see the word in, and a lot of you know that whenever a word starts with the word in, it means not. And then the other word that I see in here is that word equal. So I'm talking about things that are not equal. So we did equations last chapter. Inequalities are exactly like equations, but they are not going to have an equal sign. Instead, we're going to use some different symbols. So I'll talk more about that when we get started on our notes. Okay, so what you're going to need today is you're going to need your composition notebook, and you're going to need a couple different colored pencils. I just have these colored pencils right here, which is pink, orange, purple, green, and blue. And then I also just have a regular pencil. And I'm going to open up my table of contents, and we are on page 30. So on page 30, I'm going to write inequalities. And I'm going to write the word intro next to it because this is really just an introduction to inequalities. We're not solving any today. We're just kind of talking about what they mean. Okay, I'm then going to turn to the 30th page. Okay, so it should be right after your distributive property. And I'm going to make my title Inequalities Intro. And I am going to put the page number 30 in the top right-hand corner. The other thing that you should have gotten for today is this foldable. So on the front of it, it has the 4 boxes, and on the back of it, it has some word problems. So I'm going to turn it to the back where I have my word problems, and I'm going to fold over the sides along that dotted line that you see. So it's kind of making 4 little doors. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to fold along the dotted line so that it looks like this. Okay, I'm not going to glue it in yet. But this is how it's going to be glued into our notebook. Okay, the first one I want to start with is this upper left-hand corner, and we can see that I see the word less than. A lot of you may know the symbol for less than. It looks like this, so go ahead and take your blue colored pencil and draw that symbol less than. Okay, I remember less than because I make an L with my hand, and if I tilt the L sideways, that's the less than symbol, so that's one way that you can remember it. A couple key words for less than when you're doing word problems. I'm just going to put a little star. The key words that I'm going to write are is fewer than. Is fewer than. Whenever you see the words is fewer than, that also means that you are going to use the less than symbol. Okay? And my dot, I know this isn't going to make sense right now, but when we graph it, my dot is going to be an open dot. Open dot. And then I'm going to use my pink colored pencil to show you what I mean. My dot on my graph is going to look like this. It's not colored in on the inside, it's just an open dot. Okay? Now that we've talked about less than, let's move on to our greater than. Okay, I'm going to use the same process. I'm going to use my blue colored pencil, and most of you should know what the greater than symbol looks like. Okay, greater than. I'm going to have a couple different keywords for this one, so I'm going to grab my orange colored pencil again. The first phrase that I'm going to write down is more than. Is more than. And I'm going to write down another keyword, and that keyword is exceeds. If something is more than or exceeds, it also gets the greater than symbol. Like the less than symbol, this dot is also going to be an open dot. So I'm going to take my green colored pencil and write open. And then I'm going to show my open dot with my pink. Okay, the symbols that you might not have heard of before are the bottom two. So let's start on the left-hand side with less than or equal to. My less than or equal to symbol looks like a less than symbol. The only difference is I'm going to draw a line underneath of it. And what this means is that the answer can be anything less than or equal to the number that I'm solving for. And I'll explain a little bit more what that means when we actually get into the word problems. Okay, less than or equal to. One of my key phrases, I'm going to have two of them, but one of them is the phrase is no more than. Is no more than. And my other key phrase is at most. Is at most. So if I see either one of these phrases, I know that I'm supposed to use the less than or equal to symbol. The difference in this dot is going to be a closed dot. The reason it's a closed dot is because it's or equal to, and if something is equal to it, then I'm going to include that number, and to show that I'm including it, I'm going to draw my dot, but I'm going to fill in that dot showing that it's closed. Okay. My greater than or equal to is much the same. Okay, I have my greater than sign. I'm going to draw my line underneath, which indicates that it's also equal to, greater than, or equal to. Okay, we're going to have two key phrases for this symbol, and the first key phrase is no less than. So is no less than. And my other key phrase, and this is the one that you're probably going to see the most, is at least. Is at least. Okay, and like my other one beside it, since it has the or equal to symbol, my dot is going to be a closed dot. Closed dot. And I'm going to show that with my pink colored pencil by drawing my circle and filling in that dot. Okay?
Can you push this down so they can just see?
Okay, so this is what it should look like after we're done with the outside of our foldable. Okay, then I'm going to go to the inside of my foldable, and I'm just going to open up my less than symbol because this is going to be a word problem where we can show the less than. So I have a suitcase must weigh less than 40 pounds. And this is kind of given to me. It says less than 40 pounds. So I'm going to take my purple colored pencil, and you always want to pick a variable. You can choose X, but in this case I'm going to choose W since it says weigh. So I'm going to say W. It tells me that it's less than, so I'm going to use my less than symbol. W is less than 40. Okay. So the weight is less than 40 pounds. And what that means is that your suitcase has to weigh less than 40 pounds. It could weigh 2 pounds, it could weigh 39 pounds, it could weigh 25 pounds. As long as the weight is less than 40 pounds, that is a solution to our inequality. Okay, so I'm going to take my number and I'm going to put it on my number line in the middle, and I'm going to write a couple numbers higher and a couple numbers lower. Okay. And if I flip back to my less than, I can see that my dot needs to be an open dot. Okay, so I'm gonna draw an open dot at the 40. And what this means is that 40 pounds is not included in my solution. So if you have a suitcase that weighs 40 pounds, it is not a solution to this inequality because your suitcase has to weigh less than 40 pounds. Okay, and I want you always to say it out loud. W is less than 40 pounds, so I'm going to shade less than 40 pounds. Okay. The last thing that I need to do is I need to make sure that I put an arrow at the end of my number line to show that I'm going on forever in the less than direction. Okay? Next, I'm going to move over to my greater than. And the word problem that's under my greater than is you must be older than 12 years old to play. So since it has the words older than, I know that I'm going to be using the greater than symbol. Again, I'm going to choose a variable. You can choose X, whatever you want, but I'm going to choose A because it stands for age. So your age must be greater than 12. Your age has to be greater than 12 in order to play, which means you can be 13, you could be 14, you could be 37, you could be 102, anything that's greater than 12. Again, I'm going to show that I am graphing it by putting my 12 on my number line. I'm going to put a couple numbers greater than 12 and a couple numbers less than 12. I can look back at my dot and see that again it's supposed to be an open dot. The reason it's an open dot is because 12 is not a solution to my problem. If you are 12 years old, you cannot play because you must be older than 12 years old. Okay? Another way to show that you're graphing it is to draw the arrow above the number line, showing that it goes on forever in the greater than direction. A is greater than 12, so I am shading all of my numbers that are greater than 12. Okay, so now we're going to talk about inequalities that have less than or equal to. So if I open this one up, my word problem says you must be 12 years old or younger to order from the kids menu. Since you have to be 12 years or younger, that means that you could be 12, you could be 11, you could be 10. It's anything 12 or less. So again, I'm going to create a variable. You can use X, but I'm going to use A for age. And my age has to be less than or equal to, remember our symbol, less than or equal to 12. Okay? So I'm going to put 12 in the middle of my number line. I'm going to go a couple numbers higher and a couple numbers lower. If I look back onto the front, I can see that it has to have a closed dot because I am including the number 12. 12 is a solution. Okay, so I'm going to put a closed dot on 12. And then since A is less than or equal to 12, I'm going to shade in the direction less than or equal to 12. Be sure to put an arrow at the end showing that it goes on and on forever in that direction. Okay, the next one that we have to go to is the greater than or equal to. Okay, remember some of our keywords that we talked about. So the word problem is you must be at least 48 inches tall to ride the roller coaster, which means that you could be 48 inches and ride it, or you could be 49, 50, 62 inches, 75 inches, anything that's greater than 48. Okay, so again, I'm going to use my variable. I'm going to use h because h means height. So your height has to be greater than or equal to 48. Okay, your height is greater than or equal to 48 in order to ride the roller coaster. So I'm going to put 48 on my number line. Again, you want a couple numbers above 48 and a couple numbers below 48. Okay, since I have that little line or equal to, that means I'm including 48. So if I look at the front, that's a closed dot because I'm including that number. So I'm going to do a closed dot around 48. I'm going to read it again. H is greater than or equal to 48. So I'm going to draw my arrow greater than or equal to 48. Right? There's a couple more examples that I want to show you on your left-hand side of the paper. Some examples on your homework are going to have an inequality. So the first one that I want you to write down is x is greater than 17. Okay, x is greater than 17. And I want you to write the word means that x is and then on your homework you're going to have a blank. And you have to tell me if it means that x is bigger than 17 or smaller than 17. Since it says x is greater than 17, it means that x is going to be bigger than 17. Okay, x is greater than 17 means that x is bigger than 17. Okay, and the next thing we're going to write are some solutions. Some solutions. Well, if x is greater than 17, that means it cannot be 17. It has to be something bigger than 17. So you could have a solution of 18. You could have a solution of 25. You could have a solution of 101. Anything that is bigger than 17. Okay? I'm going to give you two more examples that I want you to do on your own. So the next example is x is less than or equal to -5. And then your third example is x is greater than -22. Okay, I want you to copy down the words that we did in our first example, means that x is blank, and then you're telling me if it's bigger or smaller, and then giving me a couple examples of solutions. Okay?